Urban homesteading is the ability to fix things yourself for your house, for your car, for machinery that you use, electronics, anything around your homestead. And I use the term urban homesteading because it provides some independence and it provides some ability to have not only saving money capabilities, but also to personalize things, to make them exactly what you want and not depend on someone else to have the exact match for your household, which is virtually impossible. We're going to take this today to the ultimate by building a kitchen island for Elpida's apartment because she doesn't have the space that she needs. And we're going to do that in stages. This is episode 1. We're going to do that in stages for you so anyone can follow it and build something similar. This is perfect for anyone that needs this to be mobile and also to be able to be removable when you move from your house. Hello friends, and welcome to another episode of the Urban Homesteading channel with Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida. If this is the first time you're visiting with us, welcome. If you have visited before or you're a member, welcome back. We truly appreciate it. This episode is actually sponsored by you, our faithful viewers, right? We do not have our opinion for sale, so we do not accept sponsorships that make us say things that are not true. We do review products every now and then, but that is always our opinion, right? We never agree to say some other individual's opinion as ours. Today we're having a little bit of a different project for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's going to span 2 days of construction by necessity. And secondly, it's a very useful project that if you live in an apartment, you can build it and then move it out when you move. It's not permanent, but will greatly improve the utility of your kitchen. Or if you live, for example, in a studio apartment, that would be a great build. What else would be that?
Even in a house that has limited countertop space.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're going to build a mobile island.
Yeah.
And of course, you can make some changes to it and make it another thing, like a mobile serving area. You can change the size. Our size is going to be approximately 4 feet by 2 feet, or just short of 2 feet, because this is the size we think is the best for our space. The dimensions are not critical. You can change them to whatever you want. The process we're going to show you will work for literally any dimension, right?
Right.
So our next step will be to go to the store and buy the lumber. And today we're going to change our favorite lumber purchasing location. Traditionally, we'll go to Lowe's primarily because it's the closest to us.
Right.
But we have struggled with quality at Lowe's, right? So today we're going to Home Depot, which is about double the distance from where we live. But we believe might have a little better lumber, but also is more expensive by 10 to 15%. This is going to be the first of hopefully 2 episodes. I mean, if we get very complicated, we might end up with 3 episodes, but definitely will be 2 episodes. And also, we're going to have a little bit of vlogging in the beginning, so you behind the scenes, our little chit-chat and banter and how our mindset is before we start the project. So let's go to the store, and as soon as we return, we're going to get started. So stick around. This is going to be a very good episode, and you are still my favorite viewer. So today we are going to try the different box. We're trying the orange box instead of the blue box, right?
Yeah.
We got a little bit of a hint that Home Depot might have a little straighter, better quality wood. Might or may not be true, right?
Yeah, we'll find out.
But we decided to go there for today. And this being our first multi-day project, we are doing a lot of firsts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a scientist, I know not to do that, so we'll see. We'll see if it works as a maker, right?
I think it will help us definitely with this project just because of the nature of it. And it'll allow us time to, without feeling rushed, to get some of the...
We never feel rushed. We are the least rushed people in the universe.
We do, though, because we try to finish an entire project in 1 day, and having the luxury of 2 days to do it is going to be...
And what Elpida means by feeling rushed is that I rush them.
Yeah.
Because, see, when we finish, Elpida and Mrs. DIY are done. I have editing to do.
Sure, we're done. We're the ones going and cleaning while you're going to edit. So we're not quite done.
Well, yeah, but still, time-wise, you don't have any pressure other than needing to do it.
And we do understand there's a lot of pressure involved with then going back to edit and make sure everything gets uploaded, and that's a time-consuming process as well. So I do think that this, since we have the luxury of another day to get this project going, I think that's going to help us overall.
Okay, so we are going to pick it up when we arrive. So we've been here before, but it's not our common place, right? So this is the Home Depot, and we are going to go inside the contractor pickup because we are professional amateurs.
Oh, and the levers at this end of the store.
That too, but I like my explanation better. What we're discovering on lumber is that the 2x material is better here, but the 4x4 are not, right? I mean, usually we can pick 4x4 easily.
Yeah, we had to dig through the majority of that front pile.
So here is the verdict. It's a mixed bag, right?
Yes.
If you want the best, you have to probably visit both. So we're going all out today. We even made a list. We checked it twice.
Right.
And we have all our lumber here on our
Cart.
here on our cart.
Here.
Now we're going to go and find us some screws, and what else we need? And glue.
Glue, yeah.
And after that, maybe we start, I don't know. But again, what do you think? My opinion is that the 2x material is much better here.
Yeah, the 2x is really good, really straight, nice boards. You can see there's a little bit of a...
But we're making comparison now.
Yeah, but overall, the 2x is much better.
But the 4x4 were...
The 4x4, again, we did kind of struggle, but we did finally find the two that we need. That's all we need for this project. And
So, unfortunately, there is no clear winner, right?
No.
I like the 4x4 at Lowe's, the 2x material here so far. But also here it is more expensive.
And they do have a nice selection of the cedar pickets. On camera, you're not seeing the true color here. It doesn't look like, but they do look very nice.
So we are done. And what did we spend, Mrs.
It's like 137 and change.
Mrs. Elpida?
Yeah.
So we're under $150, and what we're building, you cannot buy for $150.
Oh, for sure now.
So this is all the lumber we're going to use. And we haven't decided a couple of things yet. We might use baskets or we might use drawers, and so we might have to buy a little more lumber, but even with more lumber, we'll stay at $150 or less.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, time to go home. And here is Elpida coming to bring our vehicle. We didn't bring the truck today, but the 4Runner is equally capable of letting us take things in. So we're going to fill the 4Runner with all the wood. So our first purchase from Home Depot for a project is completed, and we have all our lumber here on the 4Runner. And Elpida, what are your thoughts of Home Depot versus Lowe's?
So far, the lumber looks pretty good. I like
They are more expensive.
Yeah, but still.
And as I said, the 4x4s are not as good as Lowe's.
Yeah.
But the 2x material is far superior.
Yeah, but even with it being more expensive, still for this project build, you would not be able to buy this for the amount that I'm spending.
And we have some wheels that we're going to add to the cost in the end, but they're not necessary for this project.
No,
we want
it's a preference,
Yeah, but again, we are going to head home and see if we can arrange the shop so we can start working.
Start working, yeah, okay.
And for those Harbor Freight haters, we are not among them, right? We buy a lot of things from Harbor Freight, and in the process, we saved a lot of money. And honestly, I don't think we have ever had any Harbor Freight tools fail us. Frankly, we don't buy the entry level, the Warrior brand. And I prefer the Hercules, but we've never bought Bauer. So I don't know if it is good or bad, or if we're just snobs, you know.
But their tools perform very well.
The Hercules, in fact, Mrs. Elpida is eyeing a saw for many months now, right?
Yes.
And we're here at the Freight of Harbor for a very short stop, and we will be right out of here. So even though we do have an assembly table, shame on me, we have not cleaned it since we moved in here, right?
Right.
So we are generating a space that we can do our assembly, because once we connect the top, we need to leave it undisturbed for a few hours, right?
Right.
So we use an old piece of OSB and 2 sawhorses, and this is pretty stout actually, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, it's more than
support
enough.
a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Weight.
Whoa. Yeah.
And it should be good enough. Our length is 4 feet, and our width is 2, so this is actually bigger, right?
Yeah.
Than the 2 feet dimension, and it should be 4 feet.
Right.
So let's start. So we are going to use this temporary space to actually cut our wood, and the first step has to be our top, right?
Right.
And the reason for that is because it has to overnight dry, the glue has to dry. So the first step will be to cut the pieces in half, and those are 2x6 pieces.
Yep.
And after we do that, we are going to use the table saw, and we are going to remove the
roundover.
Now, if you wanted the really farmhouse look with a little dibble in the middle, you don't have to do that. But we want them to be touching, right?
Yeah.
We don't want
I want a very flat surface.
Right. So, again, you have options here, right?
Yep.
And again, you have to start with this because this is something that then you have to wait. I mean, we can start doing other things, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
we have to wait. Excellent. So, using a measuring tape, oh no,
Oh no.
we're marking 4 feet. And again, this is the most important thing is that all of them are the same dimension, the same length.
Because this is for a top. And we bought 8-foot boards, so these should be approximately half. We might have to square some of them up, just depending on the difference in milling.
After we cut them off,
Yeah.
we're going to choose the shortest one and cut them all to that dimension.
Right.
Even if it is 47 and a half, you know.
Right. Something.
So we're going to go ahead and cut. You want to cut?
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's see how close we are. That looks pretty darn good,
This
actually.
is pretty darn close, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to use one of them for measure for the rest. So we're going to cut. We bought a total of 5.
Yeah.
So we need to make 5 cuts. So as we always do, we're using the piece that we cut first. And Alpida is going to make sure that we cut the second piece exactly the same. Okay, now. Okay.
That was not good.
No, you cannot just let it go. You have
No,
to.
we cannot. There has to be a slow. There we go. This one can come down. And you can see we went ahead and added that support so the board would not fly up.
Make sure both your faces are
Yeah.
touching, otherwise it will not be a good exercise.
Right.
And just like that, we now have 4 pieces. We're going to repeat this process. We're not going to show you every cut because they're identical. Identical, I said. How did we know that our saw will cut? As you can see here, we can see an opening, which means that the blade can pass through this wood, right? And as long as you have a space there, let's move it. So if it was there, move it a little forward. If it was there, it wouldn't be able to cut it. Make sense? But as long as you see, and in the back, it's always able to cut it.
Right.
So as long as you can see a space when you have everything to the back, that means that your saw will be able to cut the piece of lumber you put there. So what if you're there? If you're just there, in other words, you're just shy of your blade cut, you can actually lift, after you finish your cut, lift the blade, and that will allow you to even cut that part, right? Of course, that is the limitation, cannot be as wide as possible, you know?
Right, but you are able to, once you get the blade down as far as it will go, then you can lift that board and it will take it along the edge of that blade
Right.
and finish the cut.
And usually that's easy because the board is already there, so you just pivot it.
Yeah, and you can go out by another
Half an inch, an inch.
half an inch to an inch and still make a cut.
Now, some people don't like this technique. We have used it multiple times with really no issues, right?
Right.
So we never had a problem. Of course, don't try to cut something double the width.
That
That's
doesn't
only
work.
for half or an inch, you know.
Right.
And
That
if you're not comfortable, you can always turn it around and cut it the same way you
Right.
cut the first.
Right. You just match up the saw blade with the groove that you've cut and then go.
But if you routinely cut boards that are wider than 6 inches, you probably need
Sliding.
a sliding saw, right?
Yeah.
And we have one of those
Somewhere.
in storage.
Somewhere.
We have our boards here. They're all cut in the correct dimension, right?
Yeah.
Now, Elpida, we don't have to do that, right? You can buy a butcher block from this dimension,
Yeah.
but it will be several $100s just for that.
It was more than what we paid for all of the lumber for the whole project.
Actually, it will be close to $400 or $500 for this size
Yeah.
butcher block. So you can do that. We decided we don't. And what I was talking earlier, if you come a little closer here, some people like this look, right? The traditional farmhouse look.
Yeah.
We want it to be more perfect alignment.
Right. Right.
But again, that is your choice. If you do not remove the round over, you will have this look and you will save a little bit of time milling the material.
Right.
But ultimately, this is the time to do it. You cannot do that later. Once you set them to glue,
Right. You're kind of
You're
done.
done.
You're done.
and we have made this setup here. Then we put our. This is not the most elegant solution, but it works, right?
Right. It's to grab the majority of the sawdust that's coming out and kind of filter our air so we're not inhaling as much.
And it does that actually very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
efficiently.
It's doing a great job.
All right, and I need to set these now to take the round over.
Yep.
So we set it up again. We have our blade just touching here, right?
Yep.
And we're going to take this out. We're going to repeat that many times
Right.
because we do not want to have to be adjusting the fence every time.
Right. So.
So we're going to take one side of all of them, then we're going to flip them, take the other side, and we're going to have perfect boards, right?
Right.
We like using this guide.
Yep.
It makes things easier. And we're going to show you only the first board because it is really a repetitive process, right?
Right.
Perfect is a tad of an exaggeration. This will give you very good surfaces, but if your boards are bowed, it will not be able to take the bow out of them unless the bow is less than 1/8 of an inch. This is just reasonable. This is not really an edger, this is just making the board not look like dimensional lumber. So take everything with a grain of salt. Very bowed boards will need to be straightened first before they are used, and there are straightening jigs you can use, there are ways you can do it, but this is not intended to do that. These boards really do not have huge bows, so they are less than 1/8 of an inch in bow. So this technique operates very well, and it does a very, very good job in taking that little bow out without difficulty. Squared board now, right? Mm-hmm. Now we cannot do that for all of them because I really don't want you to stop and start the blade every time. So Alpida will need to help me, which means she cannot record at the same time because Mrs. DIY is doing something else right now.
Right.
One of my frustrations with this saw is even when we collect dust from the port, it drops a lot of dust through the blade. And when I say a lot of dust, you can see that, right?
Yeah.
So every few boards we have to stop and clean the dust. Which is annoying, right? It's not a big deal, but it's annoying.
But it also means like the amount that comes back to your face is really a lot.
Yeah. When we do clean that between cuts, right? Because it does a really good job of capturing things.
Yep.
Enjoying this, Alpida, don't you? Because here we want some glasses for our next step.
Yeah.
And here they are, right?
Yeah.
They are protected from dust. They're easy to find.
Labeled, easy to put back when
Yep.
we're done.
So I really enjoy our creation here.
Yeah, that's been really nice addition to the shop. Okay.
And as Norm Abrams used to say, don't forget to wear these safety glasses, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Onward,
take two.
Onward and upward.
So we're finished with one side. So all our boards now have one flat side and one non-flat side,
Right.
a curved side. So we're going to have to repeat We cleaned the saw once, and as you can see, this is how much we like this saw in general a bit, but this annoys me.
Yeah,
right?
me too. So we'll clean that up, and we have to reset the fence to make
Right.
that adjustment, and then we'll do the other side on the 10 boards.
Yep. Hey. The joys of woodworking.
Yeah. All right.
So now we are reset, and we are going to try and finish. As always, we have options, right? We're finished here, and in this stage, you can do two different things. We can rip these in half and connect them in this orientation, which is what I think Alpida has in mind. Or we can connect them like this, next to each other. Let me show you. Either option is acceptable. It's again up to you, right?
Right.
So again, one option to make your butcher block is to put them in this orientation. So your block will end up being about 1.5 inches in thickness, right?
Yep.
Now we're toying with the idea of having them a little thicker. So we're going to take one and cut it in half and put it on each side, so it will be much thicker, right, than 1.5 inches.
Yeah.
Be close to 2, what will it be like? I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be a little over 2. And so the setup will be kind of like this, but not that big. We're going to cut this in half.
All right, let's try that. So following our very detailed plans, like we always do, we're improvising.
Yes.
And we cut one of the pieces in half, and that will be our width. You might want to go on the side to show them the width.
The thickness.
Right, yeah. Wrong width. The up and down width, not the side to side width.
Yeah.
Which is bigger and more, it looks more substantial.
Then this.
Yep. And that looks pretty good actually.
Yeah, in terms of the half, I think we did a really good job.
That will be this way because we want the... It's probably an eighth different, but again, we need one side to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
If you want both sides to be perfect, you can take the bigger piece, which is this,
And run it back through the
and
saw.
run it back. But
And we might do that just to save us on sanding for later.
no, that's... Okay, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Apparently not.
Okay, cool.
Don't listen to what I say, just... That is bizarre,
Okay.
isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
So are we cutting all of them? Is that what you like?
I think I do. Yeah,
Okay.
I think I do. So we're going to proceed with cutting those. Essentially, that's going to give us double what we've got stacked up there, and that's going to give us our width of the approximately 24 for the tabletop. And again, they are at a 4-foot length.
So we made big boards into little boards,
Yes.
and then littler boards.
And so we were shooting for about 24 inches. Right now we're at 24 inches and a quarter, but we have some spaces in between the boards, and we think that that's going to be really good once we start getting them glued and pulled together with the clamps.
And again, for us, the 24 inches was the target, was not an absolute
Right,
need, you know?
right. And that means we've got still one 4-foot length of board that we haven't split for potentially another project, or maybe even part of this one, depending.
Or if we cannot make this
Yeah,
nice and flat.
yeah.
All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to dry fit it on our gluing station.
Our glue station, yeah.
You can see how what great job this very inexpensive way of capturing sawdust is. Is it perfect? No. Is it better than not using anything? Absolutely. So we're going to continue using that. Again, we're not a production shop. We do not need perfect air all the time. We just don't need to breathe all that. And the fan is doing a fantastic job capturing it. So next we need to make sure there is no dust on our assembly table. And after that, we're going to put wax paper on the table, right? Because we will have to ensure that our top does not actually adhere itself on the OSB. This will not be a happy event. So our OSB table here is covered with wax paper, and this is cheap insurance against having your project glued on your project table, right? That will not be a fun thing to happen. So now we're going to do a dry fit, bring them here and see how well we have done. You're going to lift every board. If you're paying attention to detail, you're going to lift every board to make sure what you cannot see is going to look fantastic.
Right, but that's going to end up being the top.
Yeah, whatever.
So that's why I'm taking a look at stuff.
Is this going to be our most massive glue up ever?
Yes, it will be. So
That was fantastic.
The only ones I'm not sure about are these two because they seem to have that bow in them. So, like if we rearrange them a little bit,
Well, and we have to put the pressure on them. I'm sure that will come off.
I just want them to be as close as we can get them without, because like these are pretty nice. This one, I don't know if we should rip another board and see if those boards do better, because we've got two spare.
I don't know. I don't care. Decide.
I think we should. So we're gonna split one of our other boards and see if we can get a better fitment than that.
They're all like that. They're about an eighth, yes. Remember? So with brand new boards that we probably didn't need to cut, she's going to kill me, guys.
I might if you keep talking.
I'm giving her a hard time today. I like to be done, and she likes to bellyache. But you start getting the idea. Again, what you're looking at now is actually the bottom. And we will probably still try to make it more even than it is now, but it is not the critical part, right?
Right.
The critical part is the top that we won't be able to see until tomorrow.
Yeah. But for now, I think these are going to come together real nice.
Yeah.
The seams are pretty good. There's a little bit there, but those clamps are going to bring them in. So now we just need to lay them flat and start doing the glue.
Do you want to dry clamp them first and see?
Sure.
So what we're doing now is we want to make sure if we can close that little bit of bowing by clamping, and we do not have glue yet. We probably need a little more force than that.
Oh man, I just want to bring that out. We're missing a pad on that one, so we need to find it before we...
I don't know.
Actual glue.
No. We're not going to go crazy with the clamping power, but a little more than that. And you know it might be closing on top, but not in the bottom too.
And so when we're doing this, do we want to bring the clamps all the way down to make
Yeah.
sure? Okay, so then I need to reduce this a little bit.
Because that's the area we care, right?
Yeah.
And really, when we sand it, the sand can fill some small imperfections, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we're dry clamping right now. We do not have any glue.
This is the end of this clamp's capacity. Okay. And then we'll have another couple on either end. I think that's going to be okay, don't you?
Yeah, even that is not bad.
Yeah.
And it might look better on top anyway.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying on top. It could look better.
So we put a straight edge here and we clamped it. And that will allow us to make sure we have a nice edge on one side of the board. And then we can trim the other if it is not exactly perfectly straight, right? Which probably will not be, if I'm to guess. So the next part is let the gluing begin. We're using tight bond 3. It's not necessarily 2 will work as well, but this is waterproof, right?
And because this is going to be a prep surface and potentially having some type of liquid on there.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially.
Now don't go crazy with glue. I know everyone likes to go crazy with glue, but don't. And you only need to glue one of the two surfaces, right?
Yep.
You know, this project drives me insane because we won't know how good or bad it is until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow. Yeah.
And I'm not the most patient of people.
Well, on the other hand, you don't have to sit there and watch it dry. We can do some other stuff. So, right?
We're not that kind of channel, Mother.
We've got plenty of other cuts we can make to mill the other things. That's my point.
What?
This one. Okay.
I know this is riveting. Gluing. Okay, it's important that we are straight here, not...
That's what I'm trying to do, is push them down there.
And then we take a break and then potentially build the grill we bought. Guys, isn't that amazing? Is that the most riveting YouTube you've ever seen?
Yes. Riveting. We've got glue dripping down.
That's why we put the...
Yep. Okay.
And we're on the last 4 boards. I'm always amazed how nice some
But
of
I
the
only
boards...
need to do the 3 because I don't need to do the outside of the last one. Right?
Correct.
Don't do that because then you'll have extra glue.
And no one wants extra glue.
Right?
You running out?
No, I just didn't snake it like I was supposed to.
And now for the first time you start seeing the dimension.
Awesome.
All right.
And
See what I mean? We're not really flush here.
Okay.
And we try to make it flush to our board here.
Okay.
Again, you will not be perfect, guys. Do not try for perfection. Let the clamping begin. Now we're intentionally clamping towards the bottom of the board because that's where we want the tightest to be, right?
Right. Because that will be our top.
Right. The bottom will be on top
Yes.
and the top will be on bottom.
And we're bringing out the big ones. The big ones.
2 more clamps and we'll be done. Again, any minor
Lumps?
gaps will be covered as we sand it, and and we can also use a little bit of wood putty if we need to. Give it another squeeze. That's perfect.
Tighten these up.
Okay.
Because I knew once we did the others, they would be a little loose. So. Okay.
I think it looks good. Now I want to close the glue so it won't dry. Now we rest and decide what we're doing next.
Okay.
Now, I do not know what your plans. I wasn't planning to make this perfect, the undercarriage.
Well,
We can, but I wasn't planning to.
I think we have to at least make part of it to be fairly flat and perfect, because otherwise where we join so like on these corners where we're going to join the 4x4 posts.
This is 4x4 and this is perfect.
It's not. Look at that.
Hey, don't point. Didn't your mother tell you that's rude?
You can see there's a thing there. So at minimum, even if we don't do the whole thing, we're going to have to do like a square of it to get that all flat to make sure that it joins correctly, so it's not weeble-wobbly.
It will join correctly with probably.
Weeble-wobbly. If you go along this edge, you can see what the differences are.
Yeah.
And we're talking about, 1/8 of an inch, a 1/16 of an inch. It's not that
Actually,
long.
can you grab the little mallet?
Okay. Where is it?
It's hanging somewhere. Okay, get that little hammer.
This one?
Yeah. I know we had a mallet.
Ball bead, not pinball.
Okay, what we need to do is go on both sides. The mallet will be better. I mean, we're not trying to mar the wood.
We're just trying to tap it down so it's as flush as possible on the other
Right.
side. On what will be the top of this.
And I will let you do the other side. Do
Okay.
in two spaces like I did.
Yeah.
I could see them going down. I know it is not probably visible in the camera, right?
Right.
And can you, that last clamp, can you squeeze it a little more? You want me to, I see a big opening there, but
There.
yeah,
I think that's
okay.
just probably how it is.
All right.
So, yeah.
Overall, even that is fixable, right? I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not a big
yeah.
deal.
With sanding, you can definitely bring it all flat.
And now we wait. A sleep later, and we hope our glue has dried, right?
I hope so.
If it has not dried, it will be more than 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But our next step is to declamp, that's a new term,
Declamp.
declamp this assembly. So the first step is to remove the clamps, and if things are not start falling off as we remove the last clamp, do not start falling off, that would be a good sign, right?
Yeah.
All right, now let's turn it over, and more than likely we'll have a little bit of a glue up sticky. Don't you like my technical?
You're just using some really good language.
I know,
today,
right? That's okay. We were expecting that to happen.
Yeah.
Doesn't look bad actually.
This is like 900 pounds.
The next step is a lot of fun. We have to take all the paper off, and then we need to sand it and sand it and sand it. Can you imagine if we have not done that, and that will be permanently stuck to the
Yeah.
bottom there.
Yeah.
So we're going to attack that with some sanding. Attack. The attack of the sander.
Yes. Good thing we have more than one, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
We do have some opening, but that will be okay. We can feel it, you know. But the surface is reasonably level, which is the most important thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. since this is the top part.
Right.
Okay.
We are setting up our super duper sanding station here, and we are putting our very trusty and very unconventional filtration system, plus wearing masks. Let the fun begin, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now this will take a couple of times, right? I mean, a couple of hours. I hope it doesn't take a couple of hours.
I hope it doesn't take a couple of hours.
If it takes a couple of hours, we'll need 3 days.
Yeah, but this will take time. However, we are starting with a 60 grit, so we've got the grittiest grit we've got.
So it's 11:11 now.
Okay.
We'll see how long it will take us when we're done.
All right.
Much as I dislike sanding, in this specific project, sanding is a very important step. Not only it's going to take care of all these wood stains, wood glue stains, but will also provide you with a very nice, smooth surface, which is going to be important since you're going to be preparing things on this surface. So take your time sanding it, and you're going to enjoy the result, even though the sanding process itself is anything but enjoyable. I believe for most everyone, not just me. I just simply hate it.
So we have been sanding for about 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and we're making some pretty good progress. The glue definitely doesn't want to come off super easy. It would have been nicer if we could have found our little plastic blade scraper, but we have no idea where those are right now, so we're working with what we have. But in the meantime, we have definitely made a lot of progress in getting the glue from those seams. There's still some more spots that we've got to go, but happy with the progress so far. And again, only about a half hour, so pretty good. So we have gotten all the glue off. We had to resort to some extreme measures using a blade for some of the really deep divots, like here. It was just some really thick glue that had bled through. So we scraped that off, and now we're going to go and come back over it with the gritty grit of 40 or 60, just to take these little scrape marks down, and then we're going to start stepping it back with some finer grit to get this to a nice, fine, smooth top.
We're at a stage now where we're needing to fill in some of these gaps. That's a lot of fill.
That's all right. And as usual, using the best tool for the job, my finger. We did end up with a few gaps on these, so we're going to fill them in.
That's what you get with,
Dimensional lumber.
boards, yeah, that you never know exactly what the straightness of them is going to be until you start working with it. We tried to get, pretty straight boards, but
Yeah, and overall, these from Home Depot, the orange box, they were really straight. There was a couple with bows, and I think that's where we're seeing it right now with these gaps, the way they didn't fully adhere.
and I guess you can use this pretty liberally to make sure that the gap is filled,
Yeah,
and then sand off
yeah, we'll be sanding
what's
it off.
sitting on top. Okay.
So not quite 2 hours, but close enough to it, right?
Yeah.
As we predicted, we knew this will not be a 10-minute sanding. And now the next step will be a final sanding to fix imperfections, right? Mm-hmm. Here you don't want a very aggressive sanding paper like a,
Yeah,
a 40.
This is a 120.
Okay, 120 I think is good, yeah. And here is our top almost finished, but finished for the purposes of our episode 1, right?
Okay.
We might have to trim it to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say a couple of things about communication in the shop. And this is not that someone did anything wrong. It is really my mindset and other people's mindset when you work with other people, right? In my mind, I had a different design as we discussed, right? Budding
Right.
the boards.
Right.
So there would be only an inch and a half.
And there was only going to be about 4 of them.
And Peter's mind was this, which
Yeah.
is perfect. There is nothing wrong with it. But when we switched, my brain did not switch to the new design, right?
Right.
So it would have been a little faster had we used screws to make sure that every 2 boards, that the boards are very tight to each other.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. That is my fault. That is my bad. But that tells you if you change direction mid-project, might be a good idea to take a break, stop and rethink it, right?
Right.
But in any case, this is what we wanted. It looks nice.
Yeah, I think it turned out really, really nice.
So we are going to end episode 1 at this stage. And next week, hopefully we'll show you the finished project. Maybe.
Maybe.
From Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida, let's build something awesome together.